All righty. Welcome back, everybody, to Let's Talk. We're super excited to be back after a week off of some coaches getting some coaching. And we're back today talking about values with you all. Real quick, we've got people from all over the globe with us today. A lot of these people are clients and new people. There's some coaches in here. There's some people wanting to be coaches. We've got a bunch of returning guests. And of course, there is always some new people for the first time with us. And that being said, I want to do a quick round of introductions for the four of us who are hosting today. My name is Corey Threewing.
I'll go. I am Kim. I just show up here for all the good nuggets that's made to offer, and of course, hold the door and press the record button.
And I am Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
And I'm Laura, if we didn't catch that.
Hi, Laura. Well, welcome everybody to Let's Talk. A couple quick things as we get going. We are going to open up the circle for some chat for all of you who are in the room when we get to you. In the meantime, if you'd be so kind to keep your mics on mute so that we can reserve the best sound quality of all. If you choose to not be recorded in this recording, please keep your cameras turned off and then we'll know not to call on you. And then we can all dance together. So today we are talking about values. You know, we talk a lot about values in this work, and values, I love the definition of value. Value means something to us all. And, I have a deep love for words, the power of words and the power of definitions. And so I've been digging around in many dictionaries online, as well as in some of our coaching practice manuals around the use of values. And so I just wanted to kind of feed back some of the stuff I harvested around values. First definition is relative worth, merit, or importance. That kind of goes with what we are going to assume values means. Right? It's a second definition of values. The principles that help you decide what is right and wrong and how to act in various situations. And now we're going to laser beam our focus a little bit tighter about how we're using values here. Definition number 3. Emotional states that are important to you. These values may be positive, such as cleanliness, freedom, or education, or they could have a negative feel to them, like cruelty, crime, blasphemy. Okay, now we're digging a little deeper. Your values are an internal representation, a picture, a feeling, a sound of what is encoded in your unconscious mind as being the most important things to you in an area of your life. Okay, so let's look at cognitive psychology for a second. In the cognitive psychology, you're going to hear the term core values. When we talk about core values, we're really talking about your feelings, why you do things, why things are important. So core values are considered to be deeper than beliefs. They kind of hover at the deepest level of your unconscious or your subconscious mind. Values are actually imprinted in you long before your beliefs are programmed as images in your unconscious mind as a young child. It is said that, we set our values in place, that they take shape, they start having power when we're very young. Like this occurs around the age 0 to 3 years old when we are identifying as children in the world. And by the time you're 3, those core values are kind of set in place. Now, I just want to throw down this. I found this to be super important in talking about values. Values must be feelings that you can achieve by yourself without requiring others to behave in a particular way. So, for example, loved is not a value. Loved is an objective or a wish because it requires another person to behave in a certain way. However, lovable is a total value because you can feel this without others behaving any differently. So the value of knowing your values, right? Knowing your values enables you to do a couple of things, like be in control of your actions and your emotions. Knowing your values allows you to make better decisions since you have a greater awareness of what is truly important to you. It allows you to recognize like what you need to do to feel better, feel good, It also allows you to find lots of different ways of fulfilling your values rather than doing the same old things as before. So your top 5 values, if we're going to narrow it down, we all have lots and lots of values, but your top 5 are the most influential in how you live your life. While others exist and are important, they don't have as much influence as your behaviors. They help you prioritize your time. So by becoming consciously aware of your values, you can choose to make them more informed, make more informed decisions, and to set some goals.
Exactly. But, what is a value? So when we think about what even are we talking about? A value is like a button that drives your behavior. So whatever you do is done in order to fulfill a value, even though it's likely that you're not consciously aware of it. So for example, you value health and vitality. So you exercise outside to fulfill the health and vitality value. And you benefit from the relaxed state it produces. You enjoy the warmth of the sun, the sea, etc. Or maybe you value feeling less inhibited. So you drink alcohol to fulfill the value of feeling that way, to enjoy the social scene and to enjoy the taste of the drink and the camaraderie and the environment of that. So, you could, maybe you value appearances. And so you find yourself buying fashionable new clothes and you want to fulfill that value by looking good or looking right for work or not looking dowdy or whatever. So values are the feelings that we want or don't want. So although many of us like to think of ourselves as rational human beings, in reality, all of us are emotionally driven by our values. So knowing your values and their relative importance is like the key to being happy and having a healthy, happy life. So your values, you don't want to be classifying your values as good or bad because they're neither. All the values get perceived and used as a motivation for behavior. You're either using it to run away from something or you're using your values to run towards something. An example of that would be if you value loyalty to your family, maybe that means that you can never do what you love, or it could mean that your children are a priority. With competency as a value, maybe that means you have to learn all the things before you ever take action. Or it could mean that you take pride in being good at something you enjoy. Reputation as a value. Perhaps that means what other people think of you is more important than your own thoughts. Or it could mean that you are a respected community leader. So security as a value, and I've got a couple more examples here. So security could mean you're guarding your home from intruders. Or maybe you're investing for a comfortable retirement. Citizenship. Maybe you need to gain citizenship in a new nation to be safe from terrorists. Or maybe it means deep national pride and a desire for closed borders. So there's two sides for every value that you have, and it can manifest, it can look differently in everyone's life.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, everything we do really is a means to some end, right? So the choices we make, all the actions that we take, all those things we do are a means to the fulfillment of some value or set of values that we have. We're probably all familiar with the idea that we're generally motivated by wanting to move towards pleasure or away from pain, right? We've heard that. So you do what you do to either move towards pleasurable feelings or positive values, or to move away from or to avoid painful feelings or negative values. And values aren't simply, they're not one or the other, either just towards or away from. Usually there's usually a little bit of each of those behind the things that we do. So everything you do will move you a little towards fulfilling a pleasurable value and a little away from feeling painful one. So maybe you make the effort to find a new job, you do the job search and you fill out the applications to get a new job that pays better because you would love to increase your abundance or have more money to travel or send your kids to a better school. And at the same time, you'd love to finally get out of debt, right? So both are going on. Or maybe you choose to sign up for a dating service because you would love to be in a beautiful, connected relationship. And you're also a little tired of doing so many things all by yourself, right? So there may be some loneliness there that you're trying to get away from. So we feel good. We feel good about ourselves. We feel good about how things are going, how we're going when we're successfully fulfilling or accomplishing our towards values and avoiding or away from values. So we experience that as happiness, right? We think of that as feeling happy. And then unhappiness is when the opposite is happening, when we're not fulfilling those in either direction, right? So now most people don't have any awareness at all of what their values even are. They've just been programmed in us. They're on autopilot. We're driven by values that we don't even know exist. We do things because, when you do something, it's like, I want to do this. I'm going to do this. I feel like doing this. We don't think about it very much a lot of times, especially with smaller things, but we rarely know why we want to do those things. We usually do things because maybe they felt successful in the past, or because we're just used to doing them, right? Or because other people have told us that they're appropriate to do, that they're the things we should be doing. Go to college and get this kind of job, or be in this kind of environment, or this will mean you're successful, right? Or maybe we don't do things that we shouldn't be doing, right? So we've got all these values that we've locked in and we're just running. So, most of our values were established many, many, many years ago. Most of the core values between the ages of 1 and 3 or 4, right? It's an old operating system. Most of them were set down when we were very young children, yet they're very likely to still be driving our behavior decades and decades and decades later, right? And simply because we don't know about them. We don't even know about their existence. We don't know about what they are, or about why they're even there, or how they got there. So we never even considered that they might need some updating, right? And some values obviously are more important than others, right? Some matter more, and they matter more for the outcomes in our lives. And again, this ranking of values is likely to be both out of date and totally out of our awareness. So we can spend a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of money attempting to fulfill a value or values that have very little importance to our lives and to what we really want, while ignoring ones that are much higher, or need to be, or should be much higher on our list. So, in order for us to have those fulfilled lives, to live the lives we really love, that we're talking about all the time. So it's a very common phenomenon. So let's just look at some toward and away from values. So some common toward values might be to be loving, to be secure, to be successful or healthy, to feel stimulated, to be excited or to feel peaceful, to have lots of fun in your life, to be just relaxed, and some common away from Values might be to get away from feeling down or depressed or angry, or to move away from being worried, not wanting to be worried, not wanting to experiencing, insecurity or loss or boredom or guilt or hurt or loneliness, the things we don't want. So I like to think that we're just running an outdated values operating system, right? So are you due for an update? Are you ready for an update, right?
Right on. Yeah, thank you, Laura. Thank you, Sarah. So we're digging into some values. Now we're going to start talking about what they are. So what do you value? We just made a mention about some of these positive values, what you go to, things you want to go towards, and some of these more uncomfortable or negative values that are anchored in us. They influence us, like depression, for example, or whatever those might be. So what do you value now? Like, what has your attention, right? Now, I think of attention as a real gift, right? Whatever we're giving our attention to must mean something really important. So what gets the most of your attention every day, and why? What gets the most of your money every day, and why? What gets your time? How much of your time, and why? Right now, these are our resources: our attention, our money, and our time. Okay, so now you do you all day long. I do me all day long, every single day. My priorities take my attention. Your priorities take your attention and resources every single day. So what makes these things worth the gift of the power of your attention? Now, power of attention. We're going to give that as a gift in exchange for these things that we deem valuable. Okay. What makes these things worth the gift of your power? What are you trading for? Right? Okay, like if this is an exchange, you're exchanging attention and time for what? What exactly is the trade? What does it really cost you in time and energy and money and emotion for these values you're holding so dear? Now, knowing what our values are, right? It must be worth the time spent. You obviously care about it. You can't get all that time back, so you must feel deeply that it's important. So what are those values that keep you in the exchange? So this is all that really worth, is it all really worth it? Is it all really worth it today? Is it all worth it looking backwards? Like we put our values in place a long time ago. It was definitely worth it when we chose those values, but are they currently worth it now? So now we're talking about values in this session as a tool, right? Now we're going to start manipulating and choosing the power of choice around this tool called values. So being aware of our values, how and why they play a role in how we create our lives. It is a good way to see how you got to where you are now. So now we're gazing to the past for a second. And it's also a really good way to, think about what you want to create next. Okay, now we're taking a gaze to the future. What do you want? Values, focus, results. Values equals focus, and that equals results. So our results are based on our values. Now that's what this is about today. We're getting into that. The importance of what holds value gets and maintains your attention. What has your attention is what you're focused on all of the time. And we grow what we focused on. We manifest what we think about. So today you are living in a world that you created from a set of values you set in place in the past, sometime before now. What was important to you in many ways in the past has shown up in just as many ways in your life today. So are you living in a life that is uncomfortable or painful now? Do you seek and desire a big change of some kind? Do you want to have a different life experience? Do you want to change the way you feel about things? Do you feel like you need help to identify to make some of those changes? How uncomfortable are you? Your values create your beliefs. Your beliefs set your behavior into motion, into taking action including taking no action. No action is an action. So once again, values are your feelings. That leads to your beliefs. Now that's an intellectual experience of your feelings. And now that leads to your behaviors, your actions, what you do or what you don't do. Values create beliefs. Beliefs create the action you take. And the action you take creates the world you live in. Oh, Sarah, you're on mute, love.
Great. I was just loving that. And it just leads me to explore a little, what sets your values. You can see how it all leads into creating your life, but now you had them before. Your old value set came from somewhere. But what kind of things sets your values, and how can you find that choice point? How can you find where to change it? Like, you've got external, like human engagement, external forces that can set your values, your family, your tribe, your community and politics, church and school, job and sport, rules, expectations. These things can install values into, especially in a child. This is where they're handed to you. But you've also got internal ways of setting your values. You can engage yourself. You can have your own understanding of your experience and choose values. Your desire to belong and fit in, or not. In the internal exploration and understanding your own feelings can set values and install values. Problem solving, or getting what you want. So what is your motivation? Where is your focus? And consider, are you reacting to your world, or are you creating your world? So this takes us back to orientation, and we did a whole episode on orientation. You, in a problem-solving orientation, do you value why you're seeking a solution and being in reaction? Like, I was so hurt, so I believe this, and so now I do that so it won't ever happen again. That's a problem-solving orientation. Or a creation orientation. Do you value what you choose as an end result? The creation itself. I was hurt, I accept that, and I choose to create something I love.
Wow.
All of this is so fascinating, right? So let's just open up a chat about positive and negative values. Let's talk a little bit about what it means to live your values, and how values can work against one another. Sarah?
Yeah, totally. So I'll jump in right here. Values, opposing values comes up for me here, because we can have one value that means one thing and another value that is in total contradiction to that. Like, for example, you can be respecting, I have a value of respect, right? And so, okay, now I'm going to respect my family. But my grandpa is a really hateful, mean man. And I also have a value of speaking truth to power. So where do I land in that dance? Right? Contribution, right? I have a real value, say, these are not my values, but say, if contribution is a value, I want to give back. But now I have to give more than I'm actually able to give, so that I feel like I'm giving. I'm hurting myself by actually holding this value, right? Fairness, I'm holding fairness as a value, so I'm going to make sure that I guarantee everybody a voice, but I also might value, my own shyness and my own privacy. And so I deny myself my own voice. Any other examples? Anybody? About values and maybe opposing values?
Well, for me, I'm just thinking, there's a whole lot of values around work ethic and working, and hard work. and being a good worker, and having that installed really early on with this work ethic and this drive, and that can serve you really well. But when adventure and spontaneity and connection are another value that you have, or your family is a value that you have, then you can find yourself kind of at odds between, I have to go to work, I have to work, I have to work, and I want to spend time playing with my family and spending good time with my family. And trying to find how those two things fit together can leave a lot of people in conflict. And there's so many of these typical core values that if they're not kind of evaluated and they're not consciously chosen, then you can end up with a big mess of a life trying to figure out, where did everything go wrong? You were doing all the things you were supposed to, but they're not compatible with each other necessarily in that way.
Mm-hmm.
So true. That comes up in relationships a lot when somebody wants to, they want to be in a fulfilling relationship, and then they also want lots of freedom, right? That shows up a lot. Yeah, I'm just thinking about values in general. And when I first started in this work, and I went through the exercises to learn about my own values and the ones that I had been operating from, and even ones that, that I could recognize that I was operating from at an earlier time in my life before I did any, of the, the change work that I've done. So many of my values were negative values, don't seem too smart, don't be stupid, don't appear stupid, don't be too attractive, and don't be unattractive, there was a lot of, I think it's important to talk about the negative values, because sometimes we don't recognize, what's driving our behavior, and really noticing how we're behaving and what values might be behind that behavior, I think is really valuable, right? Yeah. So a lot of the values that I had were keeping me in a very small box. It was very hard to just flow freely, because it was like, oh, no, that's too far out of the box, right? So our values can be very limiting. So it's really important to know why you're doing the things you're doing. What's the motivation behind those things? When we think of values, we think, the word implies something positive, right? Values. But, we don't really stop to think that a lot of the values we have are not serving us at all, especially toward that goal of living a life you absolutely love, right?
Right.
So,
well, I think that, like one of the things that I think, where a value can seem like a good thing, but it's actually in disservice to us. And so one of those would be, all right, one of my values is I want to have fun. I want to have a good time. But the reason that that's a value is because I'm avoiding discomfort at all costs, right? Mm-hmm. Or humor. I'm humor. I love humor. Humor's my value. But what's really going on is that using humor as a way to tell a painful truth. Right now, you're hiding a message inside of that world. And another one that Sarah and I were talking about this earlier today in our prep session around, okay, how cool would, what a cool value of trustworthiness, to be trustworthy.
It seems really harmless and really, it seems like it's coming from a really good place. However,
then all of a sudden it breeds suspicion. Like all of a sudden, I'm going for trustworthy, but you're not being trustworthy, and I can prove to you why. So, okay, now what's this dance? What, our values are there to get us set up,
right?
What are we away from, and also what are we running toward? So here's some great examples. And now this list, just so you all know, when we were talking about this, getting ready for today, we found a list of the top 50 core values, and it was a similar list on lots of websites. And we just started harvesting and talking and dreaming about why they're good and how they could possibly not be so good. So that's where this is coming from, just to give you a little heads up.
I love the achievement To
Yeah.
value achievement, that seems noble. That's a good one, right? That's a good one. But are you collecting credentials? Are you chasing a carrot? Are you keeping yourself from actually, when is enough enough?
Mm-hmm.
And then are you creating a little tiny box for yourself and not allowing others close to you unless they too have this achievement value? And then where does that leave you? That can get really messy too. And contribution, I noticed that one on the list. People who want to make a contribution, and then are you giving more than you can?
Mm-hmm.
What are you giving to yourself? Are you valuing your contribution to others more than you value contributing to your own peace and your own happiness? And are you buying your happiness with these contributions? I mean, all of these have a flip side. Yeah. All of these values, so they really aren't good or bad. They just are. And just being willing to look at all of the ways that can come up in your life is really powerful.
So setting some new values, like adjusting values, becoming aware of a new set of values that apply to where you are today. And one of them that we were talking about was self-respect as a value. What a nice choice, and there's a lot of positivity that can happen from that. But there's also the opportunity to do some things that are hard, like I now respect myself to break up a really bad relationship in whichever way that is, right? Mm-hmm. I'm now going to love myself enough to implement a change that's going to be difficult for a while. So this is where we say, okay, my values are telling me and they're teaching me that one, I get to change, and two, I might need a little help. I might need some assistance. I might need to be accountable and show up with my heart and my hand and ask for some guidance. So what do you really want here? And why do you want it? What do you want and why do you want it? So why is a part of values. That's what we're getting at here. They're not just values because they're valuable in a sweet little place on a clean shelf in the living room for all to see. No, there's a reason why you want them. There's a reason that creates the worth, why we call it value. So why do you care about values? Soul searching. Why do we care about what we care about? So here's a couple examples I came up with. So, okay, I have a value. I want a big, beautiful house. All right, Corey, why do you want that? Because I need more. I need more. Well, why do you need more? Oh, because I'm not enough. Okay, wow. Another example I thought of. Well, I value money. All right, well, why do you value money? Well, it gives me freedom. Well, why is freedom important to you? Because I'm trapped. Oh, something else is going on. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Another one. Okay, I value protection. Well, why do you value protection? Because it makes me feel safe. Well, why are you not safe? Because I'm not capable. Right? Now we're kind of hinting on some of the self-sabotaging identities here. And we've talked about this a lot in the past, but I'm just throwing a little spotlight on that right now. Another one was I value free time. Well, why? Why do you value free time? Because I don't have any time. Well, why? Because I have to do it all. Well, why do you have to do it all? Because I'm alone. Oh, okay. I'm scared because I'm alone. All right. Okay. Another one. Well, I value being scared. Wow. Well, why? Why do you value being scared? Well, it's because I was taught to be afraid. Well, why is that useful? Well, it's honor. It's the way of my family. It's the way it's always been done. And I want to belong. So now we're going, oh, wow, other people's values, other honor and respect and passed down values, just like beliefs. Values create beliefs, beliefs create behavior. Mm-hmm. Okay, so now these older values, some of them that may not be serving you now in this tender place, well, so what do? You've had a lot of these values for a long time. How uncomfortable are you now? Sometimes you'll be very comfortable with some of those values, and that's great. Keep doing that if it's serving you. But sometimes these values are old and expired and still running. and they have silently been in the background and they've been guiding your actions since you were very young. They are familiar, they are comfortable, but are they relevant? Or are they a little or a lot out of date, perhaps full on expired and still running? Have you checked the date? Is it expired? So what this means, okay, right, is the value an inappropriate one for your life today? Is it time to update your values? What? We get to update our values? What? We get to get out the cosmic menu of values and make some choices, right? So when you come across an out of date value, one that doesn't work so much anymore, you get to make a deliberate decision that you no longer wish to have this particular value running your life. So then you get to decide on a more appropriate or more feel good, or even way bigger than appropriate, the right one for right now value. And you can replace these things. You put them in place. So let's say you wish to replace your childhood value of I must please these people. So you decide on a replacement. It might be, well, now I attend to my own needs because I am important to me. Wow. Now let's let that sink in, grow some roots and sprouts in the cosmic garden of your life. So do you desire a change? Do you? I know I do in lots of ways all the time. I grow and grow and grow. So what do you really want, right? Desired reality, current reality, that dance of structure that we've talked about so many times. What do you want? And why do you want it? What's the value backing up your desire for your want? Why do you want this? Why is it important to you? Why are you willing to, like we talked about at the very top, give your time, energy, and attention to this new thing? Right? What is the exchange? We talked about that trade, that exchange. So what will it feel like when it comes true? So what values are motivating these new choices? Right? We're going to unpack that and harvest that. We're going to try it on in these new shoes and walk around in this new way. Right? So now I want to talk a little bit about that power of focus and decision. Right? Now we're choosing. We talked about the menu of these new values. We get to choose and we get to understand why that choice is feeling good or attractive to us. Well, we manifest what we think about. So, okay, we're going to be conscious about where we gaze our thoughts. We're going to be less reactive to our world and more creative in our world. We're going to make that conscious choice to focus on the things we choose to focus on. So what makes it worth it? Well, when it feels good. It feels good to do these things. What are those true choices? Because we love them, right? So why do you make true choices? Because we love them. They feel good. Identify these values, identify these emotions. And now let's harvest that list of these new emotions. Let's make that list. How do you want to feel and why? Why are these choices important, and what are the values backing up your choices? It's really great to have it. Like, I know all of us, we keep a values list from doing the values work taped by our computer in our office. We do it with our lenses. It keeps us in alignment with why we're making these choices. And it keeps us in creation. This is a really great quote that we found earlier. Although many of us like to think of ourselves as rational human beings, in reality, all of us are emotionally driven by our values.
I love that quote.
That's a good one.
And, you're talking about choice, right? And we're just introducing this idea that, the values that you get that are running your operating system as a younger human, you've got all of these outdated ones. Well, you'll hear that come up just in conversation. You hear the phrase, you got to check your priorities. And okay, but how? And I'm not saying that you need to defend your priorities or defend your values. Like, everybody's got their own values set. And so we suggest just considering them and just being deliberate about them. So there's no need to defend them, just a need to really understand and choose. So when you're trying to reorganize your life, or you're trying to create some different experience, where are the choice points? And that is where we get into the benefits of getting a coach, because we can't see our own blind spots. And as coaches, we're trained to ask you the right questions to reveal your core values. And then we can help you evaluate those answers in relation to your true choices, your new true choice, and see if there's anything that might need to be revisited. So here in this Let's Talk, we're only talking about the benefits of coaching, self-awareness, and self-growth, but we all have coaches, and we are coaches, and we do this work ourselves. So we're here to invite you to put yourself first, step into a coaching experience, and do your inner work. So Genius Hub, that's the place where we actually do the work with you. So if you're interested in knowing more about that, just reach out to us. For our Facebook friends, send us a message. But if you found us on YouTube, you'll find information in the description box below.
Right on, right on, right on. You know, I so love what we're doing here, Sarah. And thanks for pointing out that, you know, Let's Talk, we're talking about it. We're not doing it. But in Genius Hub, we're going to do the work. We're going to roll up our sleeves. We're going to do processes. We're going to get honest. We're going to be real. We're going to tell the truth. And we're going to grow up. We're going to grow together. Right. But here we're going to talk about why that's important. And so there's the difference between Let's Talk and Genius Hub. Pretty cool stuff. So now what I'm going to do is we're just about to open up the circle, you know, to everyone who's here, guests from around the world. And I want you to, you know, to think about and be ready to think about your values. What's valuable to you now? What values have you expired and are struggling with? But before that, I'm going to give a little shout out. We're doing Genius Hub day after tomorrow on Saturday, same time as this slot. And the topic's going to be the double bubble process. Right. So those of you who know, who are new to us, the double bubble is a really beautiful way to look at something maybe you don't want, and maybe something that you do want at the same time. And we're going to jump into that. So there you know. Yeah, Sarah.
I just wanted to do a little callback to our session on the human journey.
Yes.
And we were talking about the human journey, and you may or may not have caught on that the Let's Talk series discusses everything on what we were calling the wounded side of the human journey. Mm-hmm. And the double bubble is squarely at the bottom of that diagram.
Right in the middle.
That is getting to the other side where you begin creating your life. So the double bubble is one of my favorites. That's where you get to a point where you're going to actually choose. So we're going to be digging into that in the Genius Hub, and I'm super excited about it.
Right.
Yeah, we talk about tension structure all the time, right? And it's almost like Let's Talk is where we are now. How do we get here? Where we are now. And Genius Hub, and on the other end of Genius Hub is what do we want, right? So it's like that structure again.
Pop in here. I did put the link in the chat. If anyone's ready to jump in that journey, the Genius Hub link is in the chat.
Thank you, Kim.
Appreciate that. And those of you on a replay recording, just look for us on Facebook or in the notes on YouTube. So
we get so excited in this chat here that we sometimes forget to even mention that. So.
Right. So, hey, speaking of Let's Talk, this is something we started doing a couple of episodes ago. We purposely are now not choosing next week's topic because we want to ask you. So in our little go around, when we open up the circle today, the other thing I'm going to say besides values is, what do you want us to talk about? What do you want us to let's all talk about? Some coaching goodness, the first half of the human journey, some questions. What would you like us to put through our own funky filter and do an episode very much like this? So that being said, I want to go ahead and open up the room. We've got several people in the room with us today, like I said, from all over the world. I would like to hear from you guys. What are your values? Or maybe some aha moments, takeaway moments, some inspiration, some learnings. Yeah, who'd like to jump in first? We want to
I'm
hear.
happy to. I was going to say, Corey, they are popping them in the chat also.
Oh, great. Thanks, Kim.
Thanks.
Who was talking? I missed who said that.
It was Nicole. So I've got two computers on the go. Then move over.
Nicole. Hi.
I think I love these sessions so much. So always grateful to you guys. And then I suppose as I was sort of listening along, it's that distinction between values and beliefs, and also how surreptitiously they come in. It's not that we're, some of them they're taught in a very educational, religious, parental, familial, way, but they're also absorbed to a degree, which is terrifying when you think of we're all running on these outdated things and programming
that you just acquire, you just adopted somewhere along the way. You just picked it up like a stray puppy.
Yeah, and because I remember always hearing this, children should be seen and not heard, in the grim north. And that's and then you later in life you're like, well, why can't I speak up and feel safe to speak up and so on. So I found that very interesting. And the because I love that quote, comparison being the thief of joy, and it's so huge and rife with social media right now, but that always, well, what will they think of you if you it was already in something we heard so long ago. So it's always so fascinating. And topics, I think I said masculine and feminine ways of nurture and surrender versus taking the action, I think would be really fun to dive more into. So
awesome.
Thank you.
Hey, I just noticed.
Oh, Susan's got her hand up.
Yeah, 1 second, Susan. I just Carla put in the chat a second ago, my aha, the fact that I can change my values at will, and that somehow I haven't done that consciously before now. So fascinating that we can hide this important aspect of ourselves from ourselves. Thank you, Carla.
Yes, that's so great. What a great insight.
Yeah, right.
Love that.
Susan has her hand up.
Susan, go for it.
Thank you. I just had a deepening of awareness of the two-edged sword of my value for harmony. Because to have harmony, and I'm talking musical harmony, which is also a soul harmony, which is everything, you have to behave in a certain way, or sing in a certain way, or contribute in a certain way. And the self-recrimination that comes from having sung the wrong note within the collective holds me back again and again. But my soul resonates to harmony, and yet it also is blocked by that resonance requirement. And that was a very valuable aha that was facilitated by your penetrating analysis of values. Thank you very much.
Well, I think, I think about harmony a lot, and where dissonance has its place inside of harmony.
Indeed.
Thank you, Susan. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I have one that's along those lines, which is, I was very, I enjoyed recognizing values based on where our attention goes, and that being a diagnostic tool for even figuring out what our values are. And so I was thinking about how much I must value drama because my attention gets caught up in interpersonal drama, and if things are out of harmony, to reference back to Susan, which I can relate to also, Susan, it's almost like my mind can't let go of the drama of an interpersonal situation. And that's interesting because one of my values is clarity. And I don't think I'm so good at it, but I think I value it. And who's Coffee for the Soul? Corey? Neil?
Yeah, Michael Neal.
Michael Neal.
Podcast. Michael Neal, super coach Michael Neal's podcast. Yeah.
Him saying that the opposite of clarity is drama. And so that helps me to recognize that, well, one of the things I feel like I've struggled with in my life is like the reality that I give a lot of energy to what other people think of me. And so therefore I take things personally in a great regard. And so therefore when there's drama in a social situation, my mind is like flexing towards that and has gotten used to flexing towards that. And so the freedom that can come with not giving a shit as much anymore about what other people think of me can then yield the clarity that I'm actually like wanting to choose to value rather than have habituated. So that to me is like a valuable kind of evaluation.
Thank you, Slay. Right on.
Yeah, he's super smart.
The value of knowing your values. I just love I saw that earlier. I was thinking, I came across a Tony Robbins quote on values. It says, anytime you have difficulty making an important decision, you can be sure that it's the result of being unclear about your values. And that implies that if you're clear about your values, it should be much easier to make decisions, small ones and big ones, right? And that makes me think of the importance of not only defining your values, but prioritizing them. When we do these exercises, we don't just harvest, we harvest old values, what's been, what got us to where we are now, right? We're acting in a certain way now. We have a certain set of behaviors and ways of being. We're in certain circumstances, and the values we have had up until now have landed us here, right? So we want to discover those, and then we want to shift to ones that will lead us to the person we want to be, right? That, again, that end result. So we don't just harvest those new ones and come up with those new ones. We prioritize them, right? So Corey, earlier you were talking about, I think it was self-respect, respecting yourself. And I was thinking we may value respecting ourselves and also respecting others, right? But another person's idea of what it means to respect them may not be the same thing as, as our view, right? And if self-respect comes first, then it's easier to make decisions about how to go about things or how to interact with people or environments, right? Or choices that we're making. So,
Lara, when I was, we're just talking about harvesting the old values. I find it such a powerful exercise when we get into that in the coaching, where it's quite easy to see how you got the life you got,
right?
Based on those old values. And it's like, oh, and it gives your self-conscious mind proof that looking at this, that this is a major contributing factor in how you can reorganize. What one of the base foundational blocks of everything is that values list. And when we prioritize them, and I've said this to clients, we go through and dig for values and really deliberately choose them and prioritize them. And then anytime an opportunity is presented, you check them against that list and it gives the client a really solid framework to say, you know what, if it didn't make the list, it's a no. And no fault, no judgment, no anything. It's just not my priority. And to be able to have that power and to take that power and to be really deliberate with it is such a strong footing to get building what you want to build.
Right.
Absolutely. It's just massive. Yeah.
I love that, Sarah, so much, and that belief, this word belief, in here in this talk today, values sets beliefs and beliefs sets our action and, our motion, the action that we take. I just want to shed a little light on like Slay, you related to this, and I've seen there's some talk about references to this in the chat, but I want to change the word from belief to the story we tell ourselves. We're crafting a story around something that's important to us, right? And so as we craft that story, you know, this is coming right back to you, Sarah. This is how we prove it to ourselves that what we're saying matters enough to do shit about it. But we're making it up. You know, we're making up a story to prove it to ourselves. So if we made it up the first time, we can make it up again. And knowing that other people are doing the same thing, you know, gives them permission. We can give them that cosmic permission to be right where they are on their cosmic path, doing exactly what they're doing. And it's okay. And it's okay.
It is so okay. And the thing, when we're digging and finding what the values really are, what they have been, when we see that and we ask all of these questions and we uncover and uncover and uncover, then we can see where you are. You know, you've got a client comes on board and they're like, help me, SOS. And you want to meet them where they are, but you need to find out where they are. And exploring values and saying, okay, here's how you got here. I see what you did here. See what's going on. And if this is not what you want, here are some tools. And to be able to meet people where they are and to show them where their choice points are, where they can choose differently, what's going to matter, and to help our clients and help ourselves be very deliberate and mindful about how we live. The entire magnetic mind method is application. It's how do you do it? We know the mechanisms in your brain. We understand how it all works. How do you shift it? How do you change it? And those tools, to be able to bring those tools to the table is just super rewarding. But I want to highlight values in the past, not bad. Maybe they didn't get you exactly where you thought you wanted to be, or you thought you were going one place and you ended up somewhere else. Okay.
But what did
it's not bad. It got you right where you are.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad day at all. Right. It's just, let's be really specific about where you're going.
Yeah.
You get there much, much, much more quickly.
Yeah, we really don't need to know or really even want to know where those values came from, right? They're your core values, your deepest values. I'm going to read this thing I found earlier. Okay, in cognitive psychology, core values are considered to be deeper than beliefs. They hover at the deepest level of your unconscious mind. Values are actually imprinted in you long before your beliefs and are programmed as images in your unconscious mind as a young child. It's said that this occurs between the age of 0 and 3. And by the time you're 3 years old, your core values have already been programmed. So just imagine trying to remember how they got there, right? You know, those deepest, and the language of the unconscious mind is images, it's pictures, it's metaphors, which are vastly more communicative than the language that we have, right? So they're sending so much information. So we don't want to go in and try to figure that out. We can't. I mean, so much of that was just pre-verbal even, right? Before things could be understood in language.
It's such a hopeless thought. Like,
it's
when
such a hopeless thought, exactly.
Like, what in the world can you do about it? But now we've got all of these super conscious tools. We can recode that. We can reprogram that to suit what you want. And you don't need to keep it. There's a way to set it down. There's a way to rearrange those beliefs or to reprogram and have you live the way you choose. And that can be any which way you choose. So there's so much choice on the table, especially when you take a look at those values and you're like, oh, I see what happened there. Right?
Not serving me, right?
Right. So here we are in this place, at the end of this chat about values, and we've talked a little bit about the benefits of coaching and the benefits of working on yourself, putting yourself first, loving yourself enough to do this work. And you've heard me say it 1,000 times, I'm going to say it 1,000 times more. The only thing harder than doing this work is not doing this work, staying right where you're at, staying stuck, And so a little bit of harvesting of your current values, write yourself that list, put it on the fridge, put it on the bathroom mirror, put it on the dashboard of your car to say, these are the things that are important to me. My new top 5, these are the things that I'm going to hold myself accountable to keep myself in line, to make myself feel better, to give myself that extra push or that gift that I need, or to have the courage to ask for the help I'm seeking. Yeah, Kim.
I just wanted to add that I know that when I got into this program and my clients that come into this program, they often feel this, boy, they sure do have all the answers. How does this work? How are they going to perform this kind of magic, this level of transformation with a lick and a promise, right? And so I love that values takes place early. We teach them about lenses, which is the first tool, the pan of the lasagna, right? Values are the ingredients in the lasagna, right? They're the street signs in your street map. These are the things that we practice every day. We put into practice. So when it's good news when people come into the program, it's not just a lick and a promise. We've got the tools. We've got the transportation for the transformation, right? We've got it. So it was so cool listening to all the different ways we've framed that today and the way that looks. And it just brings all kinds of hope to the table of a big transformation quickly.
Hey, who else is in the room that perhaps hasn't had a chance to come forward because we've been busy talking? I want to hear from somebody who's maybe been hiding in the back or hiding in the shadows. We know you've got some gifts and some shares, some ahas, some truths.
We value you and your thoughts.
We sure do. Yeah. Who's been hanging out in the shadows that wants to come forward and say hi?
Hi.
Hey, Bushra.
Hi.
Welcome. Not always good to see you.
Oh, it's always good to see you guys. Honestly, it's I always I feel much more awake every time I watch your video. Well, take part in your Zoom chats. But yeah, it was one of a topic that's close to my heart. Actually, it's something that really gave me the biggest shift in the during the course. And it's just, I think it's, as I said, I think it's session 2 of the course. And that was a massive leap for me. It was actually, I had to take a couple of weeks out of the course just to absorb it all. So yeah, I'm just so thankful to be aware of my values and to be able to change certain values of mine to now shift into, I wouldn't say a better person, but I'd say into the orientation where I want to take myself going forward. So, so I'm nervous again. I'm not used to it just yet, but talking yet. But
that was right on.
That was so right on. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks.
I'll keep up that good work, Bushra, for sure. Thanks for coming forward. You're always welcome.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, totally.
I'll mute.
Yeah. Look, I don't have Dermot Karen, right?
There we go.
Hey, Dermot. Nice to see you, buddy.
Hey, so a quick input. What I distilled from the talk is that number one, we come in, get our patterns genetically from even pre-birth, before we have our identity. And these choices are not, I wouldn't say the word choice. These patterns are the package we start with. And yet they were done out of survival and maybe out of fear, who knows? But either way, that's the package. Now, we're coming in today saying, what if I make a choice from higher self, a choice from superconscious, a choice from what resonates with my soul? And at that point, that's the empowerment past that, 6 o'clock point where you make the choice from heart versus out of ego.
Yeah.
So it seemed like that's the distinction here of saying, I'm going to choose these values going forward. And thank goodness the package it started with got me here. And yet I want more. I want to choose this, which is way beyond not only anything I've imagined, but anything in my last 100 generations has imagined.
Exactly.
Absolutely. I love it. You know, we want to choose. We get to choose who we want to be, the life we want to have. We get to choose that amazing, beautiful, fulfilling, you know, purposeful life, right? And we then get to choose new purpose. We have, you know, new purposefully chosen values that will create that life for us, right? It will help us to create that life.
That deserved a mic drop after that.
It was amazing. It was such a perfect way to describe that.
You know, during that, you make me think, you know, the human journey, like when, you know, when we talk about this a lot, we come back to it a lot. It means so much about our human experience, you know, and so we arrive as that pure creative spirit, poof, right? Now we turned into cells dividing that turned into a body to this thing we are. You know, the wounding is part of that, you know, the individuation process of what it is for a spirit to have a human experience. Well, the values that are instilled when we are that young, that new emotional being before our brain even can intellectualize anything, we're feeling before we're thinking. That's part of the wounding. Those early values teach us to survive, get our needs filled. You know, and then of course, as we grow and then change and then evolve and then outgrow those things and we regain the ability to step into creativity, you know, but it was just so interesting to put the early values as part of the wounding of the human journey. I just thought that was so cool.
So I just want to ask a question that kind of came to me as he was talking about that and saying he wanted to change 100 years of past DNA, handing down all that stuff. Is it possible, or am I like really out in left field? Is it possible that changes the DNA of our family members, like our grandchildren?
Yeah, that's the whole point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like changes it today.
Yeah, that's what, you know, that's like epigenetics. You know, our environment changes the expression of our DNA, right? Yeah. So we inherit certain DNA, but its expression has so much to do with our environment. And environment is internal environment, and it's internal and external. Our main environment is our thoughts and feelings, if you think about it, right? Because those are happening a lot, you know, more potently even than the things we're taking in, right? Chemically or otherwise, right? We are our own environment. Think about that.
We could end racism just like that.
Bushra has her hand up again.
Right?
Yeah, I just had a thought because obviously, I mean, with when we were talking about values being already embedded in us from such a young age, but in terms of being ready to really unpack those values, really it stems from being in your end result. So having that end result, you value that. It's like you get an item and then you price it, you value it, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the way I kind of, and that epigenetically, or whatever you might want to take it back into DNA, because obviously while unpacking your own old values into these and repricing and valuing this new products that you're bringing out into the world, it kind of,
love that.
it kind of takes it
Yeah.
back into the back shelf, right? It's like
Yeah.
an old item that's like the shelf life is no longer there.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. I love that repricing and this new product. I love that.
And
That's
expiration.
exactly it.
Super Conscious gave me this idea.
Right on.
Yeah.
That's so good. So good. All right. Anybody else? Let's go around. Anybody else who's been hanging out in the back who would like to step up front, share a little with us? Anybody? I see some people we haven't heard
Good morning. Good
Branya.
morning. Good morning.
Hello, Branya.
I
Oh,
love.
we have a word from Veronica.
I've actually managed to get out of bed this morning, but I'm still in my pajamas.
You still look beautiful.
Ah, thank you. It's the collagen I'm taking. Can you notice the difference?
There's
I
a
know.
value in collagen.
Yes. Marine collagen every day makes
I'm all
me
over it.
younger.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, what I wanted to say is I do like an inventory at the end of every day. And I say, where did I live according to my values today? And where did my behavior diverge from the values that I want to espouse?
Right on.
And for me, we talk a lot about the path of least resistance. And so the path of least resistance is to do the old behavior according to the old values.
Right.
And to do the new behavior is hard in the beginning.
Yeah.
So the first step is to look back and say, okay, where did I take the path of least resistance and live out of congruence with the values I think in my conscious mind that I want to have? And then the second step is to actually catch yourself before you do that behavior, right? And when you're about to do the old behavior, when you're about to take the path of least resistance, say, no, give yourself a kick in the ass and say, this is what you've chosen. This is what the new person that you want to become. So if you want to become that person tomorrow, you've got to take the action today.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh,
well so
said,
it
Branya.
becomes, it's not just an exercise that we do on paper because it's module 2 in the program.
Right.
It becomes something that is a living, breathing part of how we live our lives on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
It becomes the yardstick by which we make every single decision on what we do with our time.
Right on. Well, let's blow some more of those cosmic sails. Yes, please. Yes, please. Well said, Branya. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Yeah, always look forward to when Branya shows up with her hand up.
No.
Every
wisdom nuggets every
I want more time
time.
with you, Branya.
Well, all my shares come from, the what shall I say, the dirt and the mud of applying this in real life. Good. Rather than, just what the textbook says, which is all fine. But, what happens when we actually try to live this on a daily basis? Right. And that's where my shares come from, because you guys are doing such a fantastic job of teaching the theory, but we also want to talk about how do we do this in practice?
Right.
Absolutely.
Yes, in my practice, that same thing, Branya. When we speak in parables and stories, it's like, okay, we're gonna go out there and get the cosmic dirt under our nails, dig it up.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, I love that so much, so much.
Because you can't you can't, I think a lot of clients think that it's enough to just turn up to their coaching session once a week or once a fortnight and then think that they're doing the work,
Yes.
and that if I just recode them once a fortnight, their life is somehow magically going to change. And I'm like, no,
Not how it works.
it's not how it works.
I just want to add
You have
something
to do the work.
I want to add something to your message. People in the United States, fortnight means bi-weekly.
Thank you.
Oh, I keep forgetting that you don't know that word. Sorry.
That's okay. I'll translate for you. That's no
Thank
problem.
you.
To me, it means a very popular video game.
Yes.
Yes.
If you have teenage boys or anybody, yes, will also.
Yes.
Right.
But before it was a video game, it was a real word.
Yes. I learned it in studying Shakespeare myself. Yep.
There you go.
So, hey, who's been catching my eye here is Nikki Yellen. What are you doing, Nikki? Come forward. Say something.
Nikki's in the house.
Yeah. Hi. Hello.
Hi, Nikki.
Hi, Laura. Hi, Sarah, Corey,
So good
Kim,
to see you.
everybody.
How
I
are you
think
doing,
this is,
love?
I'm good. I'm good. It's actually spot on what you're saying. I mean, the values, I actually value and appreciate you all. I think this was really quite insightful. And actually, I don't know if I said it to myself many, many times this week about values. And I remember when Sarah mentioned earlier on in the recordings that when we came around to values, how she said that she used to do it multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
Remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, you did multiple times, and it gave me sort of I sort of thinking about this quite a bit when I came back from Costa Rica, that I started to really get into values and to get myself, in alignment of where I want to go. And the conversation that we had was very empowering, made me think about my values.
Right. And I find when you do them repeatedly, like the first run through is good.
Yes.
And then you kind of exercise that muscle and you can fine tune, and it's like, well, maybe not this, but sort of, and you can move that thought around a little bit. What do I believe? And when we start getting into actual coaching and we're doing recodes and we're clearing old beliefs and clearing old programming, then the way becomes clearer and things like the ship starts turning around. And as you're doing that, you check in on your values, you'll see that they fine tune. And you can be very, very precise. And, I've got my list of values, and if I, somebody asks me for my time, my attention, my money, if it's not on the list.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't have to feel any particular way about that, except for conveying that, I'm going to have to pass on that one. And when an opportunity comes by and you're evaluating it and you're like, okay, that's really different. I've never done that before, but then it matches what your values are. It's like, I should really try this. I'm going to give it a go. And it's really interesting how your choices start formulating in and around your values, and keep checking in on them. Just keep checking in on them, because as you shift the way you're living and as you shift the way you make decisions, you end up seeing that they just get clearer and clearer and clearer. And I just love that about that exercise, diving into it every so often.
Yeah, thank you. Very helpful.
As the dreaming expands, right? As we grow those dreams and lose the boundaries, sometimes we might get to here or to this lily pad, right? And that, there's certain set of values would get us there, but that can just keep growing and growing, so it can all widen and open up, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's so interesting to watch how our values do evolve and they change.
Yes.
It's like we can let them run for a long time and then it's time to change a value, but also consciously you can implement a value for a short period of time to do a thing, to have an accomplishment.
Right.
And that goal is met, and then you set a new value for the next step on the path. But it takes being engaged, that daily ritual of checking to see, are you living by your values? And if not, is it time to change the value? Or you just need to hold on to that value for a little longer? Where are you at? Or where are you in orientation?
Such a huge shift to go from just existing with this pre-programmed autopilot system to realizing that there is a choice, and then that you can choose, and then you can choose again, and then you can choose again. Yeah. And you can use them as tools to craft the life you want, or your next experience, or your next manifestation, or whatever you want. And it's such a powerful, powerful tool when you can get a hold of them and really understand how they work in your life.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, hey, we've been going just under an hour and a half. So I just want to do one more round of any questions, comments, ahas, or perhaps somebody has not had a chance to step forward yet. We'd sure love to hear from you. Anything else as we...
Hi, Corey.
Hey, how's it going, Donna? So glad you're here. Nice to see you. Thanks for turning your camera on.
Yeah, I've had a few distractions and bumped into people on my walk and whatnot. So I've heard bits and pieces, but I thought on the part of the lenses tomorrow that says, like, where did you feel uncomfortable? It'll be, maybe when I was listening to that values talk and have just had it on the paper and not really using it as a as the tool that it can be. So thank you for that.
Great awareness. Yeah. I say to my 11-year-old, that's good noticing.
Yeah.
Good noticing.
Well, Donna, what are you valuing right now?
I'm valuing that I actually put my hand up and came on, because I'm usually quite a not being, stay in the background kind of. And when you said, if you have to do something that's not in that comfort zone, I thought, okay, right. I'll have my say.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. It's always such a nice time to have you with us, Donna. I saw you pop in at the top and I said, oh. Cool.
Yeah, look, I love these talks. It's really puts a bit more depth, and that'll give me something a bit more to think about on the rest of the walk.
Awesome. Well, great. Well, we look forward to hearing back from you about your values. Yeah, come back.
Yeah, exactly. I need to revisit that. Yes.
Sweet. Well, thank you for your share. That's lovely.
Thank you.
Yep. Anybody else? We haven't heard from Kat. I see Kat sitting up there. Yo, busted. Yep. Hi, sister. Nice to see you here. Oh, we can't hear you, love.
Oh, we can't hear you.
Yeah. We got a little something going on with her mic. It looks like she's unmuted, but we still can't hear her. All righty. We'll work on that. All right. Anybody else while we're wrapping things up right towards the end here? Anybody else? Excellent. Well, we sure appreciate every single one of you showing up to do this with us. This has really turned into one of the highlights of my everyday, actually. Getting ready to choose these things, be in these conversations. Ask myself the questions of how to be ready to do this with you. The preparation for these things has created quite a lovely energy around myself and my inner quest, as well as the four of us that come together to do this with you. We have some pretty good time. We put on a pot of coffee or a cup of tea and we sit here and we dig it up. And like Kim mentioned at the top of the session, these prep sessions are pretty cool. you know, where we get to harvest the wisdom of all four of us to create this for you. And the reason I want to bring that up as we close is that just like we open the circle to everyone here, it's to opening the wisdom to everyone in this circle. Because when we sit in a circle, there is a leader in every chair, and that guarantees your voice. And so thank you for sharing your voice, your wisdom, your nuggets, your tender hearts with us. Your tender, tender hearts with us. Thank you for that gift. All right, with that, my friends, we're going to go ahead and stop the recording. I love you with my whole heart, and we're going to see you back here and let's talk. Kim, if you'd throw the button, that'd be great. Thank you so much, everybody.